Right now, I'm just thinking if you are comfortable doing that in the chat. If not, you could send an email to this email address. I'm just sending it here.
Adea, please, could you take what you just said again? I didn't get it.
Yeah, I was saying that. Yeah, I was saying that Michael was asking if he could share his email address, and I said he could. If he's not comfortable putting it out here in the chat, he can put it in the send it to the email address, the MOT Accra email address. So Michael, there you have it. Yeah.
Okay, so
Please
I
feel
don't
free.
mind. I can share it anywhere. I don't mind.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Please feel free to share your any ways you think we can connect with you as well in the chat session. And once again, thank you all for coming. So today I intended for us to have some introduction, and I think we've done that. Some of us were late. Maybe after we learning a little bit, we'll just continue with the introductions from there as well. And we'll first of all go through today's agenda by just discussing what a bag is. So for the very first one, I'm just going to throw it out to us to talk about what we think a bag is in relation to software and applications. And then I'll share something about communicating or reporting a bag, the methods of bag reporting, some of the common mistakes that we make. And then the part that I really look forward to is learning from others. So we have a number of QA engineers here, and I'm sure at least we have reported one bug to our team before. So we want to learn from each other how we do it. And then feel free to also contribute in the chat session your thoughts about this. Another point is that this is not an exhaustive content on bug reporting. Some of us may know more than this, but then I would entreat you to just follow. Let's learn, pick up new stuff, relearn, and then share what you know on the chat, in the chat session as well. Or when it's time for us to share, you can do that. Right. So sorry. Okay, I think I have, sorry, I don't have to do this. Yeah, I think my slide is mixed up on slideshow. Yeah. Does anyone have any idea of how I can do this for it to follow? Okay, says the slide skip the slideshow mode. Oh, okay. All right. So maybe we'll just maintain it like this, and then on the next slide, I project it properly. So what is a bag? Is there anyone who'd like to share their thoughts on what they think a bag is? Anybody? Can I feel free to call out people to share? Okay, I think Kwame is ready. Kwame, share with us what you think a bag
I actually
is.
meant that you can call anybody because if we leave it like that,
Yeah, so since
nobody.
I'm calling anybody, I'm calling.
Well, yeah, I mean, so I think a bug is like, when a requirement doesn't meet the expected outcome. Like basically in simple terms, that's how you can define a bug. Because basically software that we build is supposed to be built based on requirements. Now, requirements are supposed to meet a certain outcome. They are supposed to meet a certain expected outcome. In this sense, if it's built and it doesn't meet that expected outcome, it's required as a bug. Yeah, so I think in a nutshell, that's pretty much my understanding of a bug. There's another way that I can define it, but I'll probably not get into that because we now, given how we have like structure for how software works and how, like, basically software development teams work, bugs are even sometimes in your requirements before even like any line of code is written. So yeah, I mean, let's work with my initial definition. Basically, when your requirements don't meet the expected outcome. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for sharing. Mwanma shared a bug is a defect or failure in a software component or system. Yeah. Any other? What's the first thing that comes to you about bugs, software bugs? David, I know you are new to software testing, but I'm sure you've heard about a bug. I think software testing and bug work alongside.
Um, a bug is a bug. A bug is actually like, yes, now. A bug is something that is there that is not supposed to be there. It's out of place, actually. It doesn't go well visually or code wise. Let's put it that way. But yes, a bug is the equivalent of a weed on a farmland. It has to be taken out, smoothened out, whichever way works for it. A solution has to be given.
Okay. All right. Who else would like to share? Right.
Bright is listening now.
Pardon.
Yeah, so like all that has been shared so far, basically that's what the bug is. When software is made, before we even do it, like Kwame said, there are requirements as to what we are expected to see. So anything that deviates from the expected results of the development can be termed as a bug. So basically, so there are various bugs, some are defects also. So it has different types in there that we can classify them under.
Okay. All right. Thanks for sharing. I agree with you all. And with what I'll be sharing today, thanks, Kwame, for bringing that up. With what I'll be sharing today, it'll be more of after we have the software product or feature out there, and not when we have the work products. Testing the work products that we have. That's starting from the requirements and the things that everything about great development, if I should put it that way. Yeah. So I'll just move on to share a few things. So before we report, yeah. So in communicating a bug and before we report them, sometimes you find that, just like others have said, that you find an issue with a software or feature that you've been given to test, or even as a customer using a software, and you find issues with it. But the customer may not have that luxury of time, if I should put it that way, to investigate whatever issue they found. But then as a software tester or QA engineer, you have the privilege and you have the responsibility to at least move a little bit further to what you found. And with that, these are some few points that I gathered. And we are saying that you need to understand how the software works already. You can't say that you are reporting a bug on, let's say, a login, and you are putting in the wrong entries. Maybe if it requires email address and a password, you're putting in your phone number and your digital address. Obviously, this is not going to work out. So at least you need some adequate understanding of how the product works. And then also you need to, in investigating, you need to at least see other things that are happening around the feature and things that you have observed. So I may be using the login functionality throughout. I like to use that because it's very common to everyone. And we have the behavioral observations about the product. Maybe when you tried logging in, you realize that there was no button for the login, or you tried logging in and you used the correct credentials, but then something else happened. It took you to a different page altogether that is not related. So you just need to take note of the behaviors that are, that are accompanying this issue that you have found. And then also, probably as you delve deeper, sometimes you've just found a bug, but because you work with the developers and probably have access to the back end, you tend to probe further to find out what is happening and the failure that might have caused it. And you'd want to how do I even put it, note down the observations in your actions. For example, you may have entered in your username, password, whatsoever. You want to find out maybe in the database if these things are actually being stored properly, and even if whether it's being stored at all, right? But then diving deeper may not be our responsibility per se. Sometimes when we report with some of these details, as far as we can, the developer can take it from there and then debug and then find out what to do, right? And then sometimes to realize that from my experience, I've realized that there are things that we can do to fix the issue. Most of the time, my experience has been with testing web applications, and before we test, we are made to run maybe some yarn command or composer command and all that. And when you start testing the feature and you realize that the UI, the front end is behaving awkwardly, sometimes we are advised to rerun the yarn command and it works. So there are things that I'm sure for those of us who are practicing testing, or QA engineers whatsoever, there are things that you can do. Probably you didn't do that well before starting your test, and then you realize that, oh, I missed this step whilst before beginning my test, and then you can do to fix that. Sometimes there's a workaround. A workaround can be that maybe log in, you use your email address. There are some systems that accept phone number or email address for the username or ID part. And maybe the workaround is that the email address didn't work, but then the phone number worked. So you can provide that, you can note that down. You have to also, there are things around in your gathering of information, the environment that you are finding this issue on. Probably it's not happening on Chrome, but it's happening on Firefox, or it's not happening on Windows, but it's happening on Mac OS per se. Just depends. There are also specific environments in our workplaces, right, that we have created to test things before they go out. So yes, M-Pharma may have their production URL or environment, but then they may also have some environments they've created, their staging environments to test. It may be more than one. So it may be happening in one staging environment, but not happening in the other. So that's more like customized to the organization or to the team. So you may need to let the team know about that as well. And then for another thing is, this is from my experience, that you have sometimes issues have been reported already. So what probably you need to do is to probably search for it. We use Jira, and it may be different in your case. Search for it, or ask the team if they know about this issue. And then sometimes it comes out that, oh yeah, there's something like that, we've reported it. Maybe we plan to use it in the next fix it in the next sprint or so. And then yeah, talk to a team member about it. Sometimes you can let them check it out for you. Probably it's you not doing something right, and then they check it out for you, and so that all these things are part of the information gathering that you are doing. And there may be more things that you can do, but these are a few things that I gathered before we try reporting. And the most important thing is to make notes about your findings, because you may find yourself lost if you are trying to investigate something and you've forgotten what you did previously. And now you are wondering, did it work the first time? Did it not work the second time? Now you have to test again. So if you tested with the correct email address and password, note that down, that this is what you are doing. The next one, maybe other scenarios that you considered, just to make your reports or your gathering of information. You're just making sure that the information you're gathering is correct and you're sure about what you are doing, right? Hello, Ejam, sorry. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
speak.
so okay. Yeah, I think you basically hit the nail on the head there, Adea. And if I may just add that from my experience, I think that maybe it's best to get a standardized template. Maybe that could be compiled by the test manager or team leader, so that it could be used across your company by the QAs, as well as maybe even other departments, so they have a standard process when logging errors or logging bugs. As you said, um, yeah, to gather as much information and notes which platforms and browsers you're using, but it's also important to provide screenshots, which didn't hear you mentioned that, but it is important to try to get to have screenshots as well. I mean, developers, as you probably are aware, they tend to, as you said, they have access to the backend, so I already have an idea in their mind. But you, as a tester, you might have looked at something differently, or maybe the customer looked at it differently when trying to use maybe incorrect logins or credentials. Customer service might see it differently. So if you have a standardized process, then everybody's on the same page. And also, as I mentioned with the screenshots, the developers then would be able to know exactly where or how to navigate to the actual root cause that's causing the bug, and know how to debug it, and know or try to work out a possible solution to resolve the issue.
Okay, thank you, Mama. Have I think what I picked from that is it makes it easier when you have a standardized process for all these things. And yeah, I think out for some of the things that you mentioned, I may touch on them as we move on. Thank you so much. And to Delex, you're asking if the recording will be provided. Yes, we will do that and share the slides too. But still join, even though we'll share. Do not leave, still joining, and then let's move along. So with the next one, when you're about to report or when you're reporting, you need to have some sort of a target. Who are you going to report this to? Is it the whole team? Is it the developer? Is it the product manager? Or your customer per se? So that sort of informs you on how your language is going to go. If you are going to communicate that to the customer, it's going to be different from how you speak to the developer about it. or even the whole team about it. And then you also need to know what the preferred means of reporting or communication for such a case is. So sometimes it can be word of mouth, yeah, just on the same desk with the developer, and then you just communicate that, hey, there is something wrong with this login thing, can you check it? And then you just say it, and that is it. He just checks it out, and it's done. And that happens when probably it's very simple and simple in codes. Like it's something you just say and he can identify what is wrong and he can just do it for you. It's similar to sending a direct message on your team's communication channel. It can be via email, Slack, Skype. It just depends. Some people use spreadsheets or Google Docs, whatever documents that is available for them to report the bugs. Some people do that as the feature, as they test, and then some people do that when they are done with everything, and then they put all the bugs together in a spreadsheet or document, and then send it out to their target audience. And then, for example, from where I work, we normally report the bugs in the pull request if it's the current ticket we are working on. If we come across it, maybe as we are working and it's not related to the current feature we are testing, we report it as a bug, create a ticket for it separately. But then if it's something it's a fresh feature we are working on and it has a ticket, we normally report the issues on the pull request by commenting on it. That's what works for the team. Some people may directly comment on the ticket. So basically, you just need to know what works for you, for your team, or even find out what works for your team, what will work for them, and then do that. And then there's some test management tool that you could report the issues on. Test Rail, for example, gives some comment section when there's in the ticket status for you to write out whatever the issue is or whatever comment you have. And then project management to Jira offers that in so many ways as well. And then when we are reporting, we want to make sure we are using the right tone of language. We don't want to behave like, yes, we are professional pessimists. And so we are trying to look out for the team and for the product. But then we don't want to sound, how do I even put it, perfect in all, and use disrespectful language, disdain the work that the developers have done, and pretend or behave as if we are the only ones concerned about the product going out properly. We need to appreciate the work that everyone on the team is doing. And so when we are reporting issues, we should be polite, respectful. Nobody, or should I say, let's assume or at least understand that the developer won't deliberately put in issues there like that. And that we all want to own the product and the feature that we are developing. So our tone of language should be polite and respectful. And then also we should provide as much information as we can. My mom mentioned some of the things that we can provide, and they should be relevant to the feature. If relevant, we just need to ask ourselves if what you are writing is it really important to add. Will it help in any way? So I'm reporting about login, and then maybe you are talking about something else, maybe the sign up feature that didn't work the last time and all the issues about it. It doesn't help, right? And you want to also provide information on how the bug can be reproduced, the process you went through, as I mentioned earlier, the environment, just your investigation, the information you found out during the investigation stage. You just want to provide that as well. So now, how do we do this? A typical structure looks like this, not exactly, but then sometimes depending on the team you are working with, the kind of product it is, these things may change. But at least you provide a title for the bag you found, and then some description. So it includes the steps to reproduce that. So how did you get to that issue? What did you do? What was your expectation and the actual results? So a strategy to help to do that will be to actually list out, okay, what I did, right? So I entered in email address and all that. We'll come to that. I expected this to happen, and then what actually happened. You can use that. And then if you use a specific data, let's just say, for example, it was the login and your credentials are correct, or the user's credentials are correct, per se, you may want to, if there is a dummy, let me use a dummy credentials, because then security comes here. If you're talking about the user cannot not be able to log in with the username or password. But then if there is a dummy valid username and password that she can give to show that, hey, this thing is valid, this is the data that you can share, you can do that. If there are other features that may be affected, you can provide that, list out the environment. So like I mentioned, some environments are very peculiar to the organization, and then some environments can be the browser you are using, the version, a whole lot of things. You just need to consider all that. And then your evidence, like Mama shared, the screenshots, the video, the error logs, and a comparison. Sometimes your only proof that this thing is not what it is can be maybe a prototype that has been designed and the team has agreed that, hey, we are going by this design. The button is supposed to look like this, the number of characters and all that. So you just need to prove that this is how it looks like, this is what is I'm seeing, this is how it's behaving. But then that's not the behavior that we all agreed on during the design stage or the prototype that was given. So you just share that, something that you can compare it to. And if you found a workaround, like I shared, you can mention that, and the severity of the bug, and then the priority. Sometimes we don't determine the priority because the PM or whoever may be in charge, if I should not in charge like a boss, but then whoever assigns tickets as and when they should be dealt with will determine if it's something that needs to be worked on as soon as possible or it can be done later. And then if you have some suggestions for improvement too, you can do that as well. Just to mention as we go along. So after this, we are going to throw it out there for us to share our experiences and the knowledge we have about it. So please get ready. Yeah, and then after reporting, you want to be available for further conversations about the bug, because sometimes the developer would want to understand what you actually, even though you may have provided comprehensive information on it, you want to he may want to find out from you or test along with you. So you need to be available for that. And you also need to follow up if it's been fixed, because sometimes it can be a blocker for you to move on. If you need to test something about, let's say if it's Facebook, right, and you need to test something about the comment section or posting of an image, right? You need to log in first. If you can't log in, there's no way you have access to the Facebook account. So in that stage, that login feature not working becomes a blocker for you. So you need to follow up, be proactive. And then when it's fixed, you can retest it to make sure that it's done and update the bug status. Let the team know that, hey, this issue has been fixed, I'm moving on. And then you need to document if necessary on how anyone, just in case this is something that is not common or a feature that is not usually, should I say, it's not frequently used, you may need to provide how the feature should be used the next time, the things to look out for in the future, right? And this does not only relate to a bag, but then sometimes features that we develop as well. The team, it may not be something that users use that much. And so the documentation on that may be very little. But when we get the chance to work on such a feature, and I think it comes naturally because you realize that you yourself found it so difficult to either develop or test that feature because there wasn't enough documentation on it. And so when you find your workaround, your solution to it or a workaround around it, it's just nice that you take some time to document it for the next person or even for yourself the next time you get the chance to work on it, right? So these are examples of bags, how people report their bags. We have Excel. Excel, this how somebody, or not somebody, or some teams do it. So there's a bag ID, more like a structure like Mama shared, a way to go about it. And as we can see, there is the name for the bag, the date it was submitted, some summary about it, the environment is affecting, the steps to reproduce. So every information that you think is relevant it's really needed. You just provide it in there. And sometimes I would even say that we shouldn't restrict ourselves, that if the team is saying that these are the only information you should provide and you don't have a field related to what some of the things you want to say, I think it's just right that you find somewhere, even if it's just a text, or you just find somewhere to add that information to it. Maybe it could help the developer, it could help the team to better understand and fix it quickly than before. So this is just an Excel. This is Jira. This how do I even put it? This is just an example I try to design from Jira, right? So this is just an example of the strategy to do what I did, what I expected, and what happened. And in this particular, oh, I'm not doing the slideshow. I forgot to do that. Sorry. Yeah. So in this particular slide, you realize that some error log was provided. So if you have access to accessing the logs, see what's happening, it's cool. You can do that. It informs the developers. Sometimes if it's a web application, another helpful way of looking out for logs would be the console log, just right clicking and using the developer tools section to do that. So there's an example of a Jira ticket, but then the field here on the right can be customized, right? They are not, it's just the organization customized or the team customized that to suit their needs. Okay. Yeah. And I think one thing that I'd like to mention is, I think I already mentioned that has to do with other information that contains the feature or the bug that you are reporting. If it's a particular user, you may need to provide the user ID or any ID of a sort that concerns that particular bug. Yeah. And URLs as well. And then this is something I got from the internet on one of the bug tracking tools. And this is how they decide to present their bug report. And they have a bug ID, the type, the feature it relates to. Some systems are very complex, and the features may be related to particular, should I say, sub features, right, of the application. So if it's accounts, there are lots of features under accounts. If it is, should I say, I want to use content, right? There may be a lot of features under content. And so you would want to state the feature that this particular bug is directly affecting. And then these people are providing the description, the priority, screenshots and attachments, the status of the tickets they reported, whether it's been fixed or nothing has been done, and all that. So you realize that there is an underlying information or foundational information that is provided for the developer. And this is a continuation of this table actually, where they've reported the owner. Probably the owner may be the one fixing it or the one who reported it, and then the release version where it was found, whether the staging environment, local, and all that. So this is quite detailed. Okay, we see that this is more detailed than it. Like I said, I found this in the link below, set 2 that we found. And from my experience, some of the common mistakes, and then from reading around that we find is we probably do not have adequate knowledge in the product we are testing or know how it works. And it's happened to me before, where you are so much in a hurry to report, and then when you report, the developer tells you, hey, that's not how it works. You're supposed to do this before that, and you're like, oh, sorry, and it's fine when you actually reported it, being respectful and polite. You are not perturbed by that. But in a case where you are very disrespectful and it turns out that you actually do not understand what is happening, you don't understand the feature and all that, then it's like you are off. Yeah, that's embarrassing actually. And then we not investigating enough, providing scanty information and avoiding multiple problems, avoiding reporting multiple problems in one bug ticket. I think that would be quite confusing. So it's better to do that one at a time. For cases like the spreadsheets that I mentioned, for some teams that I worked with, they preferred that you report everything in one document, right? So if it's Google Docs, maybe bag report 1, this is how it works. Like you give everything, and then bag report 2, this is it. So you just give them everything at a time, and then they know that this is how it works. But then when it's like a ticket and you're just reporting one issue, you're reporting that login is not working, you're reporting that, and also maybe sign up is not working, this is not working, it's confusing. So it's better that we separate them for us to work on like one thing at a time, right? Yeah, so that's it. And then some other aspects of bug reporting, maybe the tracking where you follow up, and triaging where you sort of determine the severity and priority of the bug. And then these are a few references that I referred to on the Ministry of Testing page. And then, yes, I think this is where I'm waiting to get to. I'm sorry if I move too fast, but this is where I'm waiting to get to, that we share our knowledge on what we have learned or our experiences actually, how we do things and how things work at our end. So I'll just throw in the ball, and then after we can have some questions, or we can have a mix of the two. I'm not going to be the only one to answer the questions. I think we have enough people here to, it's a community, so we have enough people here to answer the questions that we have. So yeah, who would like to go first and to share their experience about bug reporting? That's, yeah. So I need to call again. Okay, it's Francis. Hello, Francis. Okay, please, can you put up your hand? Yeah, the legs, thank you. Go ahead, please. Hello, the legs. We can't hear you if you are speaking, or I can't hear you. Or you can put it out in the chat and or check your audio or speaker. Okay, who else would like to share something with us, with the team? Jeff. MOT Accra people, what's up? Okay, so do we have any questions as well? I was hoping to hear a lot from us, but then Kwame.
Yeah, idea.
Yeah, can you share something from Pharma with us? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, I think Idea has pretty much covered like everything regarding bag reporting. Just recently, I had like a subtle clash, not a clash necessarily, but sort of, you have support people. Usually, we have a support team where usually people share issues when like a product is not working or users are giving them a tough time with a certain feature that we probably do not have yet, or even if we have it and it's not working. Support people don't usually understand. They are not QA engineers who they don't know how to log a bug. So they usually just come and report with the heat that they get, like this is not working, right? Now, for me as a QA engineer, it was something that really makes me cringe. Like, what do you mean by this is not working? This is not working is like a very vague thing to say. Uh, this is not working. What is not working? Are you able to give some context? Are you able to give some information that will help whoever it is that you're reporting to, like have an understanding and to be able to, pick it up and not really bother you and be able to individually like get things done and only reach out to you when they have to reach out to you. So uh, it sort of influenced me somehow to like write a doc on how to write a concise back report. And interestingly, it's exactly what like Adia mentioned. Most of the things that she mentioned are literally in there. First of all, you give like a detailed title of what it is that you have experienced or what it is that you run into. And one of the things that I personally hate or I don't like is to look like a fool, because already QA engineers are seen as unfortunately, I don't know where you might find yourself working, with software engineering you might find yourself working, but in most cases across the tech industry, people don't even know that there's something called software testing or QA. So it means they actually downplay our role and they don't give us the respect that our craft needs. So already people think you don't even understand what you are doing, first of all, especially some devs. Some devs think you don't even know what you are doing. So one of the things that you don't want to do is to come off as such, because you actually know what you are doing. So one of the things that you want to do is to not come off like you don't know what you are doing. So always do your due diligence by investigating, like a part of the slides, like sort of described. Do your background research until you're 100% certain that this thing that I'm going to create a bug for, I'm going to report is actually a bug. Then you can go on and create it. Depending on whichever platform that you use to log your bugs, whichever test management tool or project management tool you use to log your bugs, it still has to follow a certain standardized templates that across the QA community everybody uses. You definitely have to basically get a title for the bug, and after the title is there, you basically, I don't know if there are any specific credentials or whatever that you used to, log in into the bag. You can probably just add it as well. I think everything I'm sharing is like just hashing on everything Adea shared before, but just maybe going through it a little bit. So yeah, basically just give you a summary of what you saw or the title of what you saw. Basically, an example probably, let's say you're unable to log in into a certain environment. So your title or your summary will be unable to log in, blah, 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 blah. Now, if there's any credentials that you use, you might probably want to add that. Now, the second thing is you want to add the environment, like she mentioned rightfully. In some companies, they have just one or two environment, probably test and production. Some people have three, some people have four environments. Barely, you won't really find a lot of people have four environments, but the standardized one is usually three, where you have your test environment, you have your stage environment, you have your prod environment. Now, depending on the environment where you saw the bug, you might want to add that as well. As I'm saying, there are some test management tools or some product management tools that allows you to be able to customize these things and put them in. All you need to do is like select a drop down and do. But if you're using like the old G, which is like Google Sheets, where you have to go and, do your data validations and whatever drop downs yourself, like the hard way, yeah, you have to go and do it yourself. But if not, ensure that you have the environment there. Environment being if it was a test environment, if you run into the bug on stage or you run into it on production, some of like extra information that you might probably want to add is also maybe the device type. If you are doing it on Android or iOS, that's if you do mobile testing, or if you're doing it on web, what kind of browser were you testing on? What is the version of the browser that you're testing on? All of these things sort of like helps a little bit to give like a fairer idea of what exactly you're reporting in the sense of environment, right? Now from there, you can go to your steps to reproduce the bug or steps to replicate the bug, which is like the highlights of the whole thing. Some people can just basically put the steps to reproduce and that is enough for the devs to be able to pick up. But that is lazy work. As a QA, you want to go into detail. So your steps to reproduce, you give like enough detail, add if whatever URL that you are running into, if there's a username or test data, whatever test data that you use to basically try and log into the platform. Give like a very concise and clear like steps as to how you run into that bug. In most cases, we don't, sometimes we are unable to replicate some bugs that we run into. It's probably because we're doing exploratory testing or not necessarily functional testing. So sometimes we're just playing around with the app. You're just trying to find new learnings and whatnot, and you came across something, and in that moment you realize that this is an uncovering, it's actually a bug. Now that's one of the most tricky aspects of our job, because it can either fall under an improvement or an actual bug. And like we've already explained, that a bug is when the expected outcome or the requirement doesn't meet the expected outcome. Now, whatever you run into in that very moment is only valid if it is something that was catered for in your requirements. If it wasn't catered for in your requirements, then you can create a tax for it that will be addressed later on as an improvement. But let's just narrow it down to this because we are talking about bugs now. So sometimes you are running like an exploratory test where, I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, but I'll just wrap it up soon. If you're running into an issue where you actually weren't able to replicate it, there are some plug and play tools, or like just basically start recording tools for like exploratory testing, where it'll sort of help you so that whilst you are going through the process of recording your screen or recording the process that you are going through, in case you run into something that is for you to go back to, or you don't remember the steps that actually you went through to uncover that, you can always play back the video to be able to capture it. So yeah, basically you give yourself to reproduce, give all the necessary information that is important for them to see. And also you can add the observed behavior, basically what you saw, which is usually as part of the step to reproduce, and usually your expected outcome. You can only give a very good expected outcome if you know your product. Hence, Adea mentioning in the slides that you have to know the product, you have to learn the product. As QAs, don't do lazy work and always go and sit somewhere and wait that when the devs are done with their PMs will go and look for some ridiculous requirements. They will go and sit down somewhere and they will go and talk about the feature. Designers will go and sit somewhere and go and design something, and the developers will get into it and they will go and develop something and they will bring it to you. Don't be, an old, you're kind of saying an old QA engineer, be like a modern QA engineer where you are involved in all of the processes right from the scratch. You are going through the requirements with them. You're finding even bugs in the requirements. You are QAing the design by basically, if there are like screens, Figma screens for like whatever thing that they have, the product is going to look like. You are going through the process to, identify potential loopholes. For design, potential loopholes could be if, some UI changes are made, how it's going to affect like latency, how it's going to affect an existing API, how it's going to be rendered and whatnot. So all of those things can come in. So basically, understand your product, know your product very well. That will be able to help you to give out like an expected outcome. Also, the last thing, or last but one thing, I think is to add like visual proof, like add like a video or a screen recording to what you have done. Okay, the work that or what you run into, try as much as possible to record it. So that basically our job is a lot of communication, like concise, clear, concise communication, because we want to make the lives of people easier through our communication. It's one of the soft skills that as a QA you want to be able to build. So give, a lot of proof to whatever it is that you're reporting. And you add the severity or priority. That's one of the most important things. Like Adea mentions, in most cases, we don't determine the priority because PMs usually work with their roadmap and whatnot. But sometimes we can also influence how much of a priority that particular bug is. But you can always determine the severity of the bug. Severity of the bug being if it's a blocker, it's not allowing users to be able to log in, and that is like a major bug or a high bug, depending on the types of severity terms that you use at your place. So yeah, I think in a nutshell, these things are very important for you to be able to log, a bug, and to be able to make the lives of your engineering team easier. Everybody is going to know that you're a professional, you understand your job. But that shouldn't just be the end of it. Always try as much as possible to understand that as QA, you are not going to work to go and find bugs. You are going there to make the products better. So finding bugs is just a scratch of what a QA should do. Go to work and go and find bugs. That's just a fraction of it. But you're supposed to build product knowledge to the extent that your job clashes with your PM. You're supposed to build product knowledge or technical knowledge to the extent that sometimes your work clashes with your backend or your front-end engineer because you understand the product and how changes can affect it and all of that. So yeah, I've talked plenty, but I hope like this is helpful and maybe we'll pick something from it. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kwame. That was loaded. Should put it that way. I want to give, if there's anyone who would want to, are there any questions that you would want to ask? Any addition? There's something that we haven't talked about and you want to say, you want to share that, because we are all taking this information back to our workplaces. We are taking this to make our work better and be better QAs or testers, and then also produce good work. So it's going to help us individually, and it's going to help the organizations or whatever we test and whoever we work with. So please do not hold back your information, however trivial or big you think it may be. Please do well to share them. So the floor is still open for any contribution. Hello, Michael. You can speak.
Yeah, so I may have a couple of questions, but I'm not too sure of all of them though, for now at least. But the first question I want to ask is, apart from detecting the bug after the software has been built, because what I got, it's you actually detect the bugs after the system has been built. That's where you can detect bug or something. Is there any other specific point in time that you have to detect it, maybe in the course of building the software, or it is only after the software has been built and maybe you come back to check it and you know that there are bugs and you detect bugs there and all that? That's the first question I'd like to ask for now.
Okay. Does anyone want to take that? Okay, so Michael, from what Kwame shared before the development, right? There are some requirements, or there's some process that the software goes through, or even the planning phase and all that. So in those stages, it's possible to find bugs. You don't really have to see the software itself or work with it or interact with it before finding bugs. But then right from the start, you can find issues or even make suggestions to improve the product before we actually see it. And then after, where this particular discussion is based on, you also find bugs and then you report it. And even after it goes out to production to users, it's very likely to find issues containing the same feature where you report. So I would say that it's before, during, and after. Issues can pop up anytime, even after testing so well input. Yes. So I don't know if I've answered your question. Yeah,
Yes, I think it's answered for the first one, and that brings me to my second question. So my second question has to be with the uh, the timing in which you report the bug, right? Should it be after you seen the very first one, or you have to gather them together, all the bugs that you've gathered all together, gather all the bugs together, then report them simultaneously, or you just have to do them one after the other? The moment you see it, you just report it, or it has to be a collective something. Then after that, you report them simultaneously.
okay. I think I'll let someone. Yeah, Mama.
Yeah, I think it depends on the severity of the bug. So you prioritize them from high priority, as you mentioned, and report them. But if it's just like how do I put it? If it's just like features or something just not displaying correctly, like a button, or then I suppose it could just wait till the next refinement session. But yeah, I think if it's something preventing the customers, for example, of not logging in, then I think it takes high priority. So maybe you can then just break it down to high priority and log it individually, or personally I feel that as a QA you should try to log as a minimum of at least 3 or 5 bugs per day. But yeah, as I said, I mean, if I were to come across something preventing, let's say for example, customers from logging in, then I would log it immediately, and maybe even reach out to one of the developers to prioritize the ticket or the issue at hand.
Mm.
I think
Thank
that's
you.
fine. That's fine.
Okay.
That's well understood. Yeah.
Any more? Jean-Luc, I see you. Yeah. Thanks for coming, Jean. Any more contribution? Any questions? All right. Yeah. To add to what Melma shared, sometimes you may need to also report it as and when you find it, because the team also is aware that you are testing this particular feature, and so within the time you are testing it, as you find the issue, you report. So that's where maybe in my case, we have the comment section of the pull request where we put out the issues. So if I find it, I report it. So I can find 3 issues, and then as I find them, I just report them. So they can be a mixture of what Mama shared, that they can be severe, they can be, just some little text issue, spelling mistake. We can just report all, since they are all under the same feature. But that is when it's a present feature, like that is what we are testing currently, and it's about to go out. After that, then that one, it just depends on how important it is. All right, I think I'll just wrap it up from here. We'll share the slides, and then we would share the recording as well. And so I think my last words for today will be for us testers, that not every bug that we report will be fixed. And then sometimes not every bug report should be fixed. You realize that you report the bug and it may be a mistake from your side. It may be about a feature that has been deprioritized, and it's not really necessary that it should be fixed. So the team doesn't think they should invest time and effort in fixing it. But then I believe that on our parts, we need to do our part by reporting the issues and letting the team know that, hey, I've reported this issue and it's here, right? That is what I think we should do. We just need to do our part. And so whether it will be fixed or not, at least we have reported it and made the team aware of it. Yeah, that's all. And for now, thank you all for coming. I think for most of us, this meeting was quite short, of a short notice to most people. But I appreciate that you are here, and yeah, thanks for coming. Initially, we did a bit of some introduction earlier on. If you would want members of the team to connect with you, you can share your LinkedIn profile, or however you want us to contact you or connect with you. We are ready to do that. Other members of the team, I guess, mentioned that they would want to network and meet new people. So you can do that, and then the conversation can continue from the LinkedIn page or wherever that you prefer, right? So I am going to share my LinkedIn again, and then just allow some few seconds before I end it. So you're free to drop out if you have to. And hopefully our next meetup, you receive an invite from us. Thank you so much for coming.